it going?
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Cam.
Kim?
Cam, C-A-M.
Cam? Okay. Hello?
Yep, they can hear you. Yeah.
Well, first I want to say you look a lot like Charlie Kirk, but... So I want to ask you, why do you think that the National Guard should invade Chicago?
Yeah, so 10 U.S. Code, come a little closer. 10 U.S. Code 12406 is very clear. When there is danger of a rebellion or the federal government is unable to enforce federal laws, the president has the ability to deploy the National Guard. It's very clear. I think two of those situations are happening here in Chicago. There is an active rebellion from the local government in Chicago, and there's also an active rebellion from the people. The mayor of Chicago created ICE-free zones via executive order. Areas where federal agents are not allowed to operate within the city. They're actually not allowed to operate in the city at all. Anywhere on city property cannot be used for immigration activities. Okay, that's illegal. It does not supersede federal law. It's illegal. So you have the mayor actively attempting to do that. Okay. And then also, when people, you have the rebellion, the People's Rebellion side of it, where every night in Broadview, Illinois, you have protesters showing up with guns to the ICE facility. You also have gang members putting kill-for-hire hits out on the heads of immigration officials in Chicago. Yeah. And then you have people ramming ICE agents with their vehicles. And then you have the Chicago Police Department refusing to respond to those incidents, stranding the ICE agents. They don't have enough people here to enforce the law. There's an active rebellion that they need to fight. Deploy the National Guard. Okay, it's perfectly legal.
Just to summarize, it sounds like you think that the National Guard should go to Chicago. Should go to Chicago because there's a rebellion,
and they can't enforce federal law.
And they're unable to enforce federal law.
Yes.
My question to you is, it sounds kind of like a temporary fix. Sounds like that you're kind of, getting National Guard to go there just so that they can stop things. What really addresses the problem in the first place?
I think this addresses the problem perfectly. I covered the LA riots. Do you remember the LA riots back in June? The Waymos were on fire. CHP was stranded under the underpass. Remember that?
Not really.
Okay. Well, if anybody remembers that, I broke those stories. I was the one who filmed them. Okay. What did Trump do? When LA was burning, keep that up. Actually, it just blocks rain from the mic. When that happened, Trump deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles. And just like that, they all went home. There wasn't riots after that. They completely stopped, and they're still not going on today. They were going on every day until the National Guard got there, and they stopped. Permanently. Because the National Guard got deployed, and go figure, when there's a bunch of soldiers with M4s walking around in federal property, the bad guys tend to not want to go to federal property. And look at what happened in D.C. When the National Guard got deployed to D.C., and their presence there has been extremely drawn back at this point, they went from the 4th highest murder rate in the entire country to one of the lowest. The murder rate plummeted. Amazing solution.
Okay. Well, I mean, you have pretty good evidence for past cases, but I was addressing more just like a long-term solution.
Well, the long-term solution is that the mayor of Chicago needs to be in jail.
Okay.
He's actively violating 8 U.S. Code 1324, which is aiding and abetting an illegal immigrant. If you actively impede federal law enforcement from arresting somebody who's breached federal law, 8 U.S. Code 1325, improper entry by alien, you go to jail. It's against the law. Yeah. The mayor needs to be in jail. Same with the superintendent of the police force, the police chief, and anybody else involved. Yeah. They need to be in jail.
Well, disregarding the mayor, if we send National Guard to any kind of riot or any kind of rebellion that you consider dangerous, what's stopping the government from just militarizing their National Guard? Like, what's that threshold?
Nothing's stopping them. I'm advocating for that.
So, do you believe that for any rebellion or more like any kind of violence towards...
Let's put it this way. If you're actively trying to kill federal agents in the street, somebody should come and stop you. And right now, there's not enough federal assets in Chicago to prevent that from happening, and therefore the National Guard should be federalized and deployed.
To me, that really sounds almost militaristic.
Exactly. They are the military. It is militaristic, and that's what I'm advocating for. Trump wanted to deploy the National Guard on January 6, 2021, when there was a riot at the Capitol. They were deployed to Portland in 2020. Ruby Bridges, Little Rock, Arkansas, first black girl to ever go to school at a white school. What happened? They deployed the National Guard because there were riots. There's precedent for this. It's not new. It happens all the time. You can't resist the federal government and expect the hammer to not come down on you.
That's a good point.
Order must be restored. Chicago can be saved.
If anyone wants to take the mic, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, my only counter argument to that is just that it seems like we're caught in crossing a line every time that we go deploy the military to the point where it becomes unrestricted.
I don't think it's not unrestricted. There's a federal law that dictates the use.
That gives a legal basis, but
but we're not crossing any line. This like we do this regularly. Again, 2014, 2020, 2021 we tried to do it. Little Rock, Arkansas, we did it.
Okay, so then
it's not
I'll
rare.
ask you the other
1992
side.
we did it in LA.
Why are there so many people? I mean, there's got to be like another side to this, right? What's the other side saying?
The other side are saying, here's a brick and here's your face. To federal officers, that's what they're saying. Or here's my gun, here's a federal officer. There was just a shootout the other night.
Okay.
And a car ramming on federal officers. And what did Chicago PD do? They said, send no units. Strand them.
Yeah, to be honest, like, there's a lot of, like, individual examples you're referring to that I don't really know about. Back to my main point, though, which is just, like, why are people not wanting the National Guard to go to Chicago in the first place?
Well, A, because they're misinformed and they hate Trump, or B, because they're criminals committing crime and don't want consequences.
Okay.
So obviously, if I'm outside every night throwing bricks at federal agents, I don't want the National Guard to come here because I'm committing crimes without consequence. And I've learned. So why, like, look at Portland, for example. Why is everybody so pissed off in Portland that the National Guard is coming? Well, because every night for the past 100 nights in Portland, they've thrown bricks at federal agents. I've been there. I've covered it. I've been in the crowd. I've been attacked repeatedly in Portland with no consequences for the people who did it. And so when you've learned for 100 days that you can just stand around and attack people with zero consequences, it's probably a little bit irritating when suddenly there's consequences. If I steal from the cookie jar every day and suddenly my mom starts punishing me for it, I'm probably going to be mad about it. Mom, I steal every day.
Who did they throw the brick to?
A federal agent.
Okay, so then the federal agents were already there.
Federal agents are there, the National Guard isn't.
Oh, I see.
So the federal agents are at their facility.
Okay.
It's like a skeleton crew operating the Portland ICE facility. Yeah. Same here in Chicago. And they've now, the Chicago protesters have copied the model that the Portland protesters have set of occupying the facility. Go to Broadview, there's an encampment outside of the ICE facility. And every night they stand out there and they impede federal agents from doing their job.
How does sending the National Guard decrease the violence?
The same way it did in LA. Suddenly, when there's a bunch of scary army guys with M4s, nobody wants to commit crimes.
Are there more cases other than the LA riots?
The LA riots in 2024, the LA riots in 1992, the Portland riots of 2020. Yeah. Okay. Little Rock, Arkansas.
That's a good amount.
Yeah. I could keep going. Ferguson, 2014. The list goes on. It works every time, like a charm.
Yeah. So I'm just like curious. Are there any cases where it didn't work?
Not that I'm aware of. You'd have to bring one to me and we can look at it.
Well, I don't know either.
Every situation. And by the way, I'm not like just saying, like as a spectator saying, well, it seems to have worked here and there. Like I was at these places as a journalist covering the riots. And when the National Guard show up, it is the turn of a dime. Everybody starts behaving and it's hilarious. Because nobody wants to piss off the National Guard or the Marines or whoever's there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to ask the question I asked earlier, but how does this decrease violence, not in just terms of stating examples, but in terms of like what purpose does the National Guard do?
Show force. Exactly what I've been explaining.
It seems like there were many cases where people kind of like resisted against the National Guard.
I don't think so.
More like the federal agents.
In every situation that I've observed where the National Guard have been deployed, nobody resisted.
You said someone threw a brick to a federal agent.
Yeah, before the National Guard got there. And guess
correct.
how many times it happened after the National Guard got there?
Well,
ding,
obviously,
ding, ding, zero.
Obviously, if there's military force, they're going to be
well behaved,
not wanting to do it.
Yeah, and then what happens? They lose steam and they stop coming out.
But at the same time, I feel like if I was already throwing a brick at a federal agent and the National Guard came,
no, because you know what the difference is.
I would want to do it too.
You know what the difference is?
But
you know what the difference is?
Time, so I'm not.
Yeah,
gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly. The federal agents shoot with 40 millimeter rubber bullet launchers.
How does that stop future rebellions?
Yeah, right, because they lose steam after they realize they can't get away with it anymore. They lose steam and people start coming out.
That's correct.
Stop coming out right?
For the specific riot. How does it stop future riots?
Doesn't. You respond to them as they come. And if you learn that the federal government actually does something when you riot, people stop rioting, right? But if you teach them every time, oh, we're just going to lay back and let it happen, they do it more. Mm-hmm. Look at the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast. It's horrible. Why? Because the cops there don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make good points.
Thank you.
I mean, I came here now with actual evidence. I was actually just curious.
Yeah, sure. Is it about to pour?
It's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to?
My last point that I'm going to make is you mentioned how National Guard has been effective in the past, stopping riots. Would you say that more force shown by the National Guard can potentially increase tensions between, let's say, the people versus
they get a little
government?
angry and their feelings are hurt, but they're certainly not attacking people in the streets like they were before the deployment of the National Guard.
That's
I
correct.
speak from personal experience.
But the motivator for not wanting to fight anymore becomes
These people are going to do it regardless. So like look at LA. They were burning vehicles and houses before anything happened.
I can agree with that. But what becomes a motivator for them not wanting to?
You know what I'll say is, personally, I don't care what their motivator is.
Okay.
If you are burning things in the streets and you're rioting and destroying property and hurting people, I don't care what your motivation is.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's where, the conversation ends, because I think I honestly fundamentally disagree with that. I think the motivator is important because it almost sounds like the motivator is fear.
Listen, if someone
came up with a gun and pointed at you, you would obviously stop doing whatever you're doing.
No. If somebody pointed a gun at me, I don't care why they pointed it at me. You're now a target. Like, you need to be dealt with, right? I don't care. If somebody comes up to you and shoots you and kills you, right? I don't care why they did it. I don't care if it's because you had $1,000 in your pocket and they needed to feed their family. I don't care why they did it. They go to jail and hopefully get executed.
Okay, well, that's your opinion. But just going back to my point, the National Guard almost sounds like they are instilling fear into the people to stop what they're doing.
No, not the people, the criminals.
Or
and they should instill fear.
People.
Yeah, and they should instill fear in those people.
Okay. Well, I guess that's just
if you are a criminal who wants to harm or kill federal agents, you should be afraid of what they're going to do next. And you don't have the right to kill people in this country, especially not federal law enforcement.
We have some overlap in that. I do believe that kind of like countermeasure should be used, but kind of like as a last resort. I feel like if you get too comfortable with deploying the National Guard whenever there's a rebellion, whatever you decide is a rebellion.
You understand the difference in the situation here? You actively have a local government resisting the federal government, whose law is supreme, and you have the people showing up to kill agents, which needs to be stopped. There's not enough assets in Chicago to stop it, obviously, or it would have stopped already.
Yeah.
So you deploy more assets.